Welcome to Let the Quran Speak. I'm Sophia, your host. Did Prophet Joseph, or Yusuf, do something that was against the will of God? That's a subject of our conversation today. Dr. Shabir, welcome to Let the Quran Speak.
Pleasure to be on.
We're continuing our series, Dr. Shabir, on misunderstood Quranic verses, and this is one of them. So the verse we're looking at is from chapter 12, verse 24. And here is a translation. It's a Pickthall translation, which I will read. It says, "She verily desired him, and he would have desired her, if it had not been that he saw the argument of his Lord. Thus it was, that we might ward off from him evil and lewdness. Lo, he was one of our chosen slaves." So what's the misunderstood part of this verse, Dr. Shabir?
This is a verse of the Quran whose commentary is one of the most interesting to read in the classical commentaries. So let me start, give some background to this because the verse by itself, is in the middle of a whole story, and we need to get the story at least in a nutshell so we can see where this verse fits. Joseph is one of 12 brothers, sons of Jacob. His brothers were jealous of him. They left him at the bottom of a well. He was picked up by some passing travelers, taken to Egypt, and they're sold as a slave. He was a slave to Potiphar, an officer of the Pharaoh, according to the Bible. And there, in the Quranic story as well, we have it that Potiphar's wife, took a liking to Joseph. As he grew up, he turned out to be a man of exceeding good looks. So she kept inviting him to have intimate relations with her, but he refused, as a good man of God would. And on one occasion, she saw an opportunity. She bolted the door when they were in privacy, and she again invited him, but he raced for the door. She grabbed his shirt from the rear, tearing the shirt, he happens to get out of the door, and there, the lady's husband confronted them. The question that arises now, those who want to get to the end of the story need to read the rest of Surah 12,
and it's a pretty long and detailed story.
Yeah, so we stop there just so we can come back to the verse in question. Now, the verse in question is saying, لَقَدْ هَمَّتْ بِهِ, she desired him. وَهَمَّ بِهَا لَوْلَا أَنْ رَأَى بُرْهَانَ رَبِّهِ, and he would have desired her had he not seen the evidence of his Lord. كَذَلِكَ لِنَصْرِفَ عَنْهُ السُّوءَ وَالْفَحْشَاءَ, thus so that we may turn away from him evil and gross deeds. إِنَّهُ مِنْ عِبَادِنَا الْمُخْلَصِينَ, he is one of our righteous servants, or one of our chosen servants.
So the question is, did Joseph or Yusuf actually desire this woman, or did he not, right?
The way I translated it, no, because he would have, according to this, the way I translated, he would have, had it not been for the fact that he saw the proof of his Lord. So how was that maintained? How was that explained in some translations of the Quran and some modern commentaries? So one way of explaining that would be to say that Joseph, being a man of God, he is a prophet of God according to the Quran. He has been conditioned by God over time. He has seen so many things. He's had revelations from God. So with all of that in his background, he's not going to desire another man's wife. So that would mean, no, he didn't. But some classical commentaries on the Quran parse this statement differently. See, where it says, he would have, had it not been for, they took it as a simple statement. So in parallel with لَقَدْ هَمَّتْ بِهِ, she desired him, وَهَمَّ بِهَا, so they want to stop there. And he desired her. So now they were restart the sentence with لَوْلَا أَنْ رَأَى بُرْهَانَ رَبِّهِ, had he not seen the proof of his Lord. But by restarting at that point, they're left with a conditional statement. The first part of which is there, لَوْلَا أَنْ رَأَى بُرْهَانَ رَبِّهِ, had he not seen this is a kind of an if clause. If he had not seen. So now we're looking for the then clause, like what would have happened? Then they are saying, okay, he would have fallen into gross error here. But they're taking for granted that he already desired her. And something was needed to turn him away from his desire, from what he desired. And so they go into great detail about what he saw as the proof of his Lord. Some commentators mention that he saw his father, and his father, is there like scolding him. How could you, right? Whereas his father obviously is miles away, hundreds of miles away. And some say that he saw a writing on the ceiling. And what did he see? He saw verses of the Quran. For example, لا تقربوا الزنا إنه كان فاحشة وساء سبيلا. Do not come close to adultery. Verily, it is a gross misdeed and something that takes you far away from the right path. Here, like the Arabic words of the Quran are apparently what he is said to have seen on the ceiling. But all of this is unnecessary when we realize that with a conditional clause, whether in Arabic or in English, in English we can say, usually the if clause comes first. If I hadn't overslept, I would have caught my flight. So the if clause comes first and the then clause later on, right? But you could also have it in reverse. I would not have missed my flight if I had awoken earlier, right? So the if clause comes later. In a similar way, we have this statement in this verse, وَهَمَّ بِهَا لَوْلَا أَنْ رَأَى بُرْهَانَ رَبِّهِ. And he would have desired her had it not been for the fact that he saw the evidence of his Lord. So the if clause comes later. If he had not seen the evidence of his Lord, he would have desired her. But somehow the classical commentaries missed that, probably because the stories were so sensational about him, so the commentators can go into details. He was right at the precipice of consummating the act, and then, sudden intervention by God, so the miraculousness of the miraculous element that is there in the story somehow captivated them, and they wanted to, bring that into the commentary. Not in a kind of deliberate way, let's go for the sensational, but this is how it fit within their minds. Whereas the mind of the modern commentator, like when we look at the Quran today and we're looking at this classical commentary, we're saying, oh, wait a minute. Now, Imam Al-Razi, though he lived in the Middle Ages, he had the good sense to parse this differently. And he said, no, that's unacceptable. There's so much in Surah Yusuf that classifies Joseph as being min al-muhsinin, among the good people. Even in this verse, what follows from this statement where, it says, and he would have desired her had it not been for the fact that he saw the proof of his Lord. It follows up by saying, كَذَلِكَ لِنَصْرِفَ عَنْهُ السُّوءَ وَالْفَحْشَاءَ. Thus, so that we may turn him away from evil and gross misdeeds. إِنَّهُ كَانَ مِنَ الْمُخْلَصِينَ. He was one of the chosen servants of God. And more in this surah. So Al-Razi argued cogently that it could not have been that he was desiring another man's wife, especially the woman who took care of him since he was a child in her home. In short, the answer to your question is no, he didn't desire her. There's no indication of that in this Quranic verse.
All right, thank you for that, Shabir.
You're welcome.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Muslim Media Hub, the new home of Let the Quran Speak.
Here we spread positivity and good. We help people experience the beauty of Islam and help them appreciate and understand Muslims.
This beautiful building we purchased at cost $2.3 million.
Yeah, we've already raised a third of that money, and with your help, inshallah, we can pay off the rest.
So we're looking for people who can give $1,000 each. If you can be part of the select group, that's amazing.
Otherwise, just please give whatever whatever you can. Every dollar counts.
It's our collective responsibility to share the message of Islam with our fellow human beings. Please help us continue this good work.
It's a sadaqah jariyah, something that will continue to be a benefit to the Muslim community long after Safiya and I are gone.
Please support our work at muslimmediahub.com.
Your support is zakat eligible and tax deductible.
May Allah bless you and your loved ones today and always. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.